Hello everyone, this is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today I'm going to do a quick recap of my Worlds experience. I was a day one competitor and I went into the tournament playing a straight Buzzwole deck. So I'll be running down my initial thoughts in the meta and all that stuff and why I ended up choosing this list. And I'll go through matchups and stuff after that. So I landed on Buzzwole. I was pretty set early on that I thought the Buzzwole of some sort would give me the best chance to win after seeing the NAIC, where Zorogarb was dominant. Other Zoroark variants like the Tord list, the Zoro Control deck, became popular. I felt that using other Zoroark variants had some issues because you can just lose the game by going second against Garbodor or just having less hate in your deck than the Zoro Control decks themselves. I didn't want to play Zoro Control of my own because it felt like mirror, mirror, mirror was the thing that you always had to be concerned about. And adding in these techs for mirror meant that you had slightly worse Buzzwole, being only able to fit like one Mew in your list. And also, I really wanted space for a third field blower, and these sorts of things were sort of overlapping against each other to make the list a really weird blend of cards that I felt didn't give me a strong chance to win, even though the actual control package itself was very powerful, just because you had to sort of over-tech for mirror just to have that covered. It just meant that you had too much to do in your actual 60 cards. So I was pretty certain that I didn't want to play Zoroark, having played it for a large portion of the season. And as soon as I made that decision, I thought that Buzzwole was the play, because all season it's been the contender to Zoroark, and I feel like it was in a much better meta position. Some people were picking up Zorogardi again. That would be a free matchup for me. People were even playing straight Gardevoir, which I feel that Buzz Rock, at the very least, always proved to have a strong matchup. And I felt that there'd be a lot of Zoroark at Worlds. You know, Worlds competitors, you know, they've been consistent throughout the season, and the way you be consistent throughout the season is by playing Zoroark decks a lot of the time this year. So I felt like I'd be running into a bunch of good matchups. I also felt that Rayquaza was a good matchup for Buzzwole. A close matchup, but usually positive. So I felt that there was really no bad matchup going into day one with a Buzzwole build. Obviously, Malamar was one of the things keeping Buzzwole in check, although that did perform quite well at the NAIC with a top 8 placement with Adam Hawkins from the UK. I felt that because the dominance of Zorogarb and Zoro Control actually both making the final, it meant that Malamar looked to be a much worse and riskier play for Worlds, especially because Ray was also a question mark matchup, really relying on your Dawnwing's GX attack turn and hope that they don't have Guzma on that turn, or hope that you have no other GXs on your board, which was never really something you could control if you had to Lele turn 1, for example, to get your stuff going. So I felt that there was just really good matchups all around for Buzzwole. I tested mainly Buzzrock, and I floated away from it because I was just so upset by how it draws. Everyone who's played Buzzrock pretty much says that it's like having to get over the hurdle of itself in the first instance a lot of the time. You're reliant on hitting your max elixirs, you're reliant on hitting your Lycanroc at the right times, you're reliant on B-String at the right times, and it felt like there was just, again, too much overlap, trying to fit in too much. You wanted to fit in Field Blower now because of Zoro Control and because of Rayquaza, some of them playing Fury Belt, some of them playing the Wishful Baton, all of these things you want to gust out the way, and of course Parallel was always an issue. So I wanted to simplify this list. Now, I did also attempt to build a Zoroark, a Buzzwole Magcargo list that also played a Rangaroo. Some of my other UK friends, Rob Kimbron mainly, played this at Worlds, and he actually progressed into day 2 with a Buzz Cargo list, so huge props to him. I was against playing Buzz Cargo despite having tested it with a Rangaroo Scorched Earth initially. My main issue with that build was because you didn't have Brooklet Hill, and it was very important to get your Remoraid's it was very important to get your Diancie out. And then I also tried an Octillery Magcargo build as well, which was actually something that Mark Lutz played in day 2 to a top 32 finish. And I had access to that list maybe a week before Worlds. And I tested quite a lot of games with it and really did enjoy how it drew once you got the Magcargo going. My main headache for that was the bench spaces, and this is the same for both lists. Having to have either Octillery or Oranguru in addition to Magcargo meant that you were a lot weaker against Parallel City. Sometimes you would have to get rid of your Diancie Prism Star, which would be very painful, and you're only really limited to 1 or 2 attackers throughout that game. So I shied away from Mad Cargo. I at one point had a 2-2 Artillery, 2-2 Mad Cargo build. Then I went to a 1-1 Mad Cargo. And then literally 1 or 2 days before the tournament, I was like, if I'm playing a 1-1 Mad Cargo, it may as well just be some other slots. So that's where I ended up with this build that's in front of you right now. I ended up trimming the 1-1 Mad Cargo to fit in a 4th Cynthia and a 4th Choice Band. Choice Band being really, really potent against Rayquaza to make your 1 energy attachments do a heck of a lot more, which is very dangerous and really was what I thought helped make me have quite a strong Rayquaza matchup. And also it's very good against Zoro Control, of course, because then your 1 energy attachments can become knockouts if you attach a strong energy to a Zygarde EX with Diancie on board. Or if you do the Beast Energy onto the Buzzwole or the Buzzwole GX, you can also get that combination with Choice Band Diancie. So I really wanted to maximize my Choice Band count. I thought it was a very important card for the tournament. So that's where I ended up leaving this list. In terms of other interesting decisions, I played the 1 Zygarde EX, and it was very strong throughout the day. Initially, it was in here because of Zorogarbodor. Obviously, Zorogarb tries to play Trash Launch and also things like Mewtwo, Latios, sometimes even Mew EX of its own, to combat your Buzzwole pressure early, and they can really take the game from there if they are proactive against your Buzz GXs. So having the Zygarde, especially with that heal, is so ridiculous against those decks. And once again, it's another activator alongside Guzma, Choice Band, Diancie that can just deal with Zoroarks very efficiently. So I really enjoyed having the Zygarde EX one of. Surprisingly good in Buzzrock mirror matches as well for the early turns, because you can heal off with Cellstorm their initial pokes, and that can be also very useful. You can set up 2 shots on Baby Buzzwolves quite easily, and even do like Guzmaring on Remoraid's and Rockruffs and stuff like that. So Zygarde definitely pulled its weight. This list that we've actually seen is one that I saw my friend Luke play in Valencia a few weeks before Worlds. He ended up getting top 16, I think, of the Valencia Cup, which was like, an 80-person cup, something like that. His only loss was to like a Buzzwole Garbodor list, a Baby Buzz Garb list that also played Hammers. So we pretty much said, you know what, that deck was beating a lot of things, including a lot of Buzzrock mirrors that he faced. And because his only loss was to like Buzz, Garb, Hammers, it felt like it wasn't a real deck that he lost to. So it just felt very strong in general. So I already had this shell working, and having gone through the Buzzrock phase, not liking how it drew, then having the Mad Cargo phase, I knew that there was still this shell in the back of my mind that we've seen and tested with for those weeks. So I was fairly happy to play this sort of shell of Pokemon. One thing Luke did do was play a much higher count of the Baby Buzzwole. I wanted to play 3 Buzzwole GX because I thought the Jet Punch spread damage was also very vital against Rayquaza. That turned out to be quite true. It's also quite good against, again, some of the Stage 2 things that are sort of sneaking into the format like Zorogarde. So I was personally happy with a high Buzz GX count as opposed to a high Baby Buzz count. But at the same time, we had 3 Brooklets and 2 Super Odd to recycle the Baby Buzz. So I found it not much of an issue at all in testing. The Pal Pad's another interesting card. Mark tipped me off on this one just because we're not playing the Lycanroc and we do need to gust a lot of the time. Resetting or recycling Guzmas was obviously very good for you. Reusing N as well in more defensive matchups, pretty nice also. It pretty much allowed you to Sycamore and be as aggressive as possible because the deck is very, very Beast Ring focused. We have no other acceleration at all. So on the Beast Ring turn or turns, you need to hit them. So you just got to go all in with your Sycamores or Cynthias and just ignore whatever else is in your hand because you got to get that going for you. So that's sort of my initial idea. I really liked Buzzwole in theory for its meta placement. There was no real bad matchups I foresaw other than like random Ultra Beast decks that would pop up, like Naganadel Stack Attacker, but I didn't think that was hyped. And I thought Malamar was on the decline. So in my opinion, it was a no-brainer to play a Buzzwole because it is such a consistent and powerful performer. And the list itself worked pretty well throughout the day. The reliance on B-String was sometimes a hindrance. It meant that we really had to go hard on getting artillery out. That was something I would always do. I always like getting the artillery down early. Sometimes getting 2-2 out even was something that I did in a number of games, which was very awesome. And yeah, I'll do a quick rundown of my tournament. Round 1 was against a Rayquaza. Um, it wasn't playing Fury Belt. I believe it was playing Wishful Batons. I was able to beat that 2-0. I hit Blower at the right time in one of the matchups, and in the other matchup I was just ahead. Was able to get my Sledgehammer turn off after doing early jet punches for like 80 or 90 in the active, so that was very strong. I beat a Zorigadi round 2. Very good matchup. Very happy to see that deck. One of the games he did get a double prize penalty because he looked at an extra card by mistake on a premonition. I didn't like. I called the judge just to see what was happening. I thought he'd get a warning, but he actually got a double prize penalty, and it meant I won on turn 2 because I was able to turn 1. Oh, sorry, my turn 1, which was turn 2 of the game. I KO'd a. Oh, sorry, it may have been turn 3 that I won, but yeah, I KO'd a Zorua and put 30 on a Ralts, and then the following turn, I hit a Gallade for 120 somehow. I can't remember how I did that. I think it was a combination of like Beast Diancie, something like that, along those lines, and then put 30 on a Zorua that had evolved into a Zoroark, and then the following turn he had the prize penalty, and then I was able to Guzma the Zoroark, KO that, and then do the 30 bench damage onto the Gallade. So that was just a really silly game, but the game 2 went really well for me as well. It's just a positive matchup no matter what, so that was good. Round 3 I was actually on stream against Foisey, and he was playing a very interesting Rayquaza build. If you want to go back and check the official stream, Pokemon TCG on Twitch, I think I'm about 3 hours in, 3 hour 25 in, something like that. And you'll see me on stream playing this deck against Rayquaza that was playing Champions Festival, Jinx, and 3 Marshadows. Definitely not the way that we've seen it be ultimately very successful at Worlds. But it was an interesting insight into how people were bringing Rayquaza in different builds. He again was playing Batons. We were able to get our Beast Rings on good turns to win that game. I was also able to draw out of a Marshadow Let Loose on turn 1, which I'm very thankful for. I think if I didn't top deck the Ultra Ball that I did top deck, it would be an easy scoop and I would have had a lot of time for game 3, and I still feel confident if I get to go first that I won't just simply lose to a Marshadow, because I'll at least be able to get a Remoraid on the bench and set up my board to at least have attackers against him, which wasn't the case in our game 2, and I just happened to get Ultra Ball into pretty much the nuts as I laid for N to N away his Tempest. Then I drew into Artillery Floatstone and could attack him all in the same turn. It was a very powerful one that I got out of the lock with, which was really awesome. So definitely an interesting list. I think he was kind of concerned about spread, which is why he played Champions Festival. It never came into play against us at all. I don't think he ever filled his bench fully to actually use Champions Festival, so it never came into play. But I think that was a tech for a different matchup, really, and those sorts of techs actually slowed down the Rayquaza, I think, or at least helped him, or didn't help him in terms of clunk factor, where he missed a few pieces here and there along the way. He also did play a Coco GX, which I have to be careful of as well when I'm trying to Beast Ring spam a bunch, but again, that didn't come into fruition too much, as I think he discarded it with his Ray a couple of times and wasn't able to bring it out in the second game either. So nice to be 3-0 at Worlds. I was finally thinking this could be my year, because I've had some unfortunate luck at Worlds the last 2 years. I think I made a bad call last year playing Espeon Garb. The year before that, I thought I made an amazing meta call. I just hit the wrong matchups. And this year it felt like I've hit 3 good matchups so far with a pretty solid and simple deck. So my strategy is happening every single game because it's just so simple. One energy attackers doing a lot with choice band and buffs that then becomes Beast Ring focused and into one hit KOs. It's a very simple deck that can rinse and repeat, really, which is what I really liked about this list. In round 4, I face a Buzzrock. I think I have a rough rub of the green here. I remember my Remoraid being Jet Punch twice before I could evolve into a Octillery after going Cynthia into Sycamore. I remember missing Beast Ring on a crucial turn as well. He was able to jump over my Sledgehammer turn, which is sometimes a big deal in the matchup. I wasn't able to KO his Lycanroc. There was a bunch of things that sort of went wrong. in the first game, and in the second game, I think I just got kind of rolled. I think he drew pretty impressively. I think he was hitting max elixirs quite early. I think he hit 3 very early, and that put a lot of pressure on me again. So I really did get rolled in that matchup in the second game. It wasn't very close, and I remember again having a turn where I hit 0 B string, and when you hit 0 B string with this list, you just know it's over. So yeah, my round 4 was fairly quick, 0-2 against Buzzrock. My actual first 2 losses of the whole day, I was win-win, win-win, win-win up until this point. So my first loss and my first bit of shakiness with the list, which is a little bit scary. So sat at 3-1. In round 5, I'm up against my first Zoro lock. There really wasn't many in the room day 1. I thought there'd be a lot more Zoro lock, and it was a deck that I was kind of trying to target with the 4th choice band and playing the Zygarde EX, feeling a lot more comfortable around Mew EX. I actually ended up losing this series. I win the first game fairly comfortably. Game 2, I go hyper aggressive and take 4 very early prize cards, but it's in a game where I prized double Remoraid, and that's really, really bad for me because then he was able to actually just make an end stick after he ends me to 2, and I wasn't able to fish any of my Remoraids out of the prizes, and then he's able to N plus DCE Mew attack, then into Mew attack over my Sledgehammer turn where I miss an energy to kill it, and then he's able to Mew just like 1 or 2 more times while I'm pretty much just doing nothing. So the game 2 was really unfortunate just because I couldn't get Remoraid out and defend myself after going aggressive on prizes. And the game 3 was also a sad case where I wasn't able to get Remoraid out after once again going very aggressively. I remember leading a Buzzwole GX and taking some early prizes once again. He was actually playing a thick Magcargo line. It wasn't the standard 1-1. It was at least 2-2. And even though he only got 1 Zoroark out, he got 2 Magcargos out, and he was able to make some pretty insane plays with a very limited amount of trades, and it really kept him in the game. My Zygarde was reasonable, but he also was packing those enhanced hammers and Flare Grunt as well, so he was able to strip that down after being like the early attacking presence, which I like in that matchup because the Mew can't do anything. He was able to pretty much strip Zygarde into being useless again. I was not hitting the cool combo of like Guzma, Choice Band, Energy all at once, and he was able to like 2-shot my stuff whilst using hammers. And again, it's the case where I'm just missing goddamn B-string in game 3. It's all that matters, really, when it becomes the mid-game for this deck. Hit your B-strings and win the game. But that just simply wasn't the case, and it was really, really upsetting because I knew there were turns where it's like, if I just hit something reasonable here, I'll win. But I would Cynthia, like, I would have a large hand size, I'd Cynthia and just hit all supporters, nothing playable, not even like Ultra Ball or Energy to lower my hand size for artillery to then even dig for the B-string. So it was really upsetting to lose a Zoro lock because it's a deck that I had not only a naturally reasonable matchup for, but had even teched for and not ended up winning. So it was really upsetting to lose that game. Don't get me wrong, my opponent played perfectly and did everything that he could, and he had like the right answers in his deck and all that stuff, but it was a very upsetting loss to take because, you know, at that point I feel very safe going through, but after that, that's my second loss and it means I need to win out. So a sad loss to Zorolock in round 5, which I really feel I had a tough rub of the green. I think if I have 10 games against Zorolock with this list, we should win like 8 times. More than likely, we're playing 4 Guzma and Palpad, so their stalling tactic probably isn't going to work, and 3 float zones on top of that. And although we are like weak against the enhanced hammers and weak against Mew, I feel like we still should beat that most of the time. So just an unfortunate 2 of the 3 games, which was able to catch us out there. In the next round, I face a second Zoroark. In game 2, we actually have a very awkward game where, again, it's the story of missing B-string. Pretty much every problem sprouts from missing your B-string. Had a very easy game 1, not a problem. Game 2, he's able to actually just build a big Guardy, and I can't do anything because I missed my B-string turn. And that just sweeps over me, which is ridiculous. I was able to put a Zoroark close to being knocked out, but he can just parallel it away. So that wasn't... So, like, my win condition basically just diminished off the board straight away. and he's able to take game 2, and I was actually quite fortunate in being able to steal a game 3 against him, where I think he only got 1 or 2 basics out, and I was able just to aggro them down before he could get set up. I think he either End or Cynthia'd and missed a basic after like turn 2. So we were able to steal the 3rd game, which is actually like a huge relief, because it would have felt really bad to have tied a Zoro Guardian. That would be my world's over. So it was fortunate to win that that 6th round. So now we just need to win 2 more. In round 7, I'm up against Buzzrock. It's Sam Huff, who's usually a day 2 competitor, very good player. He's just playing a pretty standard Buzzrock. Pretty good series. We're both able to win a pretty convincing game each. There's one in the game that I win. He has to dig in like a 30-card deck to find 1 choice band remaining and whiffs, and then I'm able to win the next turn. In the game that he wins, it was close as well. I think in both circumstances, we tried to like Grinch down each other's artillery so that they couldn't just have win on board, and then we were like ending each other down low and seeing who hit and who whiffed. That sort of thing was going on. In game 3, we're low on time, and we're just like, okay, whoever's ahead on prizes, because we know that the other one's out. He actually he hits double tails on a swing around on my own Baby Buzzwole to whiff a KO, which really sucks for him. And that just made me so far ahead on the prize trade that he scooped it up pretty much after he flipped double tails against me. I think I was still ahead because it would turn into my B-string turn, and I would just try and Grinch something down to be, more ahead on the prizes anyway. But it basically just meant he had no chance of winning after hitting that double tails. So he did do the scooping after. It was actually before time was called that we did it, because he knew that the game was just out of his hands once he whiffed that 1 KO. So the scoop there from Sam in game 3, as I was just getting too far ahead for him, really meant that I was in a win-and-in situation. The first time I've been this close to day 2 at Worlds, and I'm up against a Rayquaza, so my 3rd Ray of the day. And this time they're playing Fighting Fury Belt, which is much more difficult for me. They're also playing 4 Rescue Stretcher, so they have a lot of energy recovery. So unlike previous Rays that I've played, when a Ray gets knocked out, he's still able to have a lot of energy on the board because he plays a lot of Rescue Stretchers. Also, he played Marshadow, just 1 copy, so not quite as crazy as Foisey, but this 1 copy of Marshadow, let me tell you how much work it did. I am able to win game 1, I think, and it's pretty routine. I'm able to get out of the Marshadow lock because he does it like mid-game when I already have artillery. So things go well for me game 1. I also hit Blower at a very good time to get a knockout. In game 2 and 3, he leads his 1 Marshadow. Now, this is the most problematic thing for me, because Marshadow is a non-GX, obviously, and the way that this deck beats Rayquaza a lot of the time is by punching something early. And I mean, not just a punch for 30, I mean getting Diancie, Choice Band, and one of our big energies, and hitting a Lele or a Rayquaza. That puts us so far ahead tempo-wise, especially if it's Jet Punch. We can also put a 30 on a backup Ray, and we can basically see our prizes from there. We just go, okay, I just need to hit this active one again once, either with a Jet Punch, or if he does go aggressive and gets that KO, we can go into Sledgehammer turn. Then we just need to hit B-string, and win. And because he led this Marshadow, and I couldn't move it in either games, I don't think I had Guzma in either of the turns. I just had to accept the fact that my turn 1 is wasted, because I can't interact with his Rayquazas at the back. And that really puts him far ahead, and also the Fighting Fury Belts kept his stuff alive as well. So there was turns where I needed to dig full field blower. That was a miss. And in game 3, there's once again the sad tale of B-strings hiding from me. And oh man, it was so sad. I mean, this is the all-in part of the deck. The deck is very consistent and smooth in comparison to a Buzzrock, but it's a critical turn that you face with this deck where it's pretty much all in when you have this one dig with Sycamore plus Octillery, and you hope that that will get you 1 or 2 B strings. And we do play 4, so it shouldn't be too difficult to. And you have a high Cynthia count to try and save these throughout the game rather than having to like bin them early and just say, oh, they're gone. That's why we have the higher Cynthia count to Sycamore. But in every case, I just missed everything. And also, he blowed off a float stone, and I need to hit a float stone the turn in addition to the B string. And in game 3, I believe I hit 1 B string when I kind of needed 2 anyway. And I also whiffed the float stone, so I just had an Octillery stuck. And once that's stuck, I just can't win because I know that he has 6 energy on the board and he can just Guzma. So that's really sad. I think he had more than 6. He had a bunch of energy on the board. So my Worlds run finally came to an end, losing to one of my 3 Rays that I faced. The only one that played Fury Belt. And Fury Belt, let me tell you, is really good against Buzzwell because that 190 is much easier to push into, and so is the 130. So as opposed to the 2 Baton lists that I face, where I found it relatively no problem, the Fury Belt list proved much, much more difficult, and maybe that's because the list, me only playing 1 Field Blower, potentially greedy, but many Buzz Rocks wouldn't play any, so that's something to bear in mind. Really, I think it does come down to the fact that he led Marshadow twice. I think it was a huge, huge factor in our game 3, and that was really sad for me. It really was difficult to try and come back from that. In addition, I just wasn't drawing hot. I was missing choice bands. I was missing pieces here, there, and everywhere. It wasn't just the fact that he led Marshadow. Like, your deck shouldn't just lose to someone leading a non-GX, but it felt like I was just missing pieces throughout the series. And Rayquaza is really a game of, like, 3 turns, right? You know if you've won or lost against Rayquaza based on those first 3 turns. And it's the best deck in the format at punishing slower starts. And it felt like I just wasn't having the right rub of the green. I'd be having a supporterless turn, and then I'd draw a supporter, and then I'd support it into like 5 other supporters, and like my turn's already done anyway. So it felt like I just didn't have the right rub of the green, as I said. So unfortunate to lose my winning in. Ultimately, I don't think games 2 and 3 were particularly close for the reasons I just mentioned. And his Rayquaza list, I think, was the best one that I faced, to be honest. It was the most streamlined. It played lots of rescue stretches, which helped him out a lot. And that one Marshall I did put in work just because he happened to lead it twice, which is already very good. But in the first game as well, it did potentially put a spanner in the works with a let loose. So overall, I thought that was the best Ray list I saw. And that was proof in the pudding, really, when you look at the top 8 lists and how they all functioned. It was a lot more similar to those. I actually believe it was Mahone's Rayquaza list. So yeah, shout out to him for a pretty good list. I know he played Buzzrock anyway, and I think he actually lost his winning in. But it was one of his friends who I was facing in the last round. Really cool guy. And we had some chilled out games, even though it was a winning in. It was really weird, actually, because there was like silence either side of us, where there was a lot of tense games going on, and we were just talking throughout the whole thing. So overall, I thought it was a really cool tournament. It's a lot better than last year, where it was just all sadness. At least I had that sort of rush of being 3-0 and feeling like I was up in it, and then having a bit of trauma going 2 losses on the bounce and then getting back into the winning in spot. So it really was a roller coaster of a day, the day 1. It's a shame that I wasn't able to bring it home into day 2, but that means that we just have another goal this year to either make it there automatically or, once again, grind through day 1 and this time actually make potentially a better deck choice or just have a better few pieces of luck. I feel like against the Zorolock easily could have been a win. I think, again, my final round could easily have been a win. I think the Buzz Rock matchup that I lost, I feel I was dominated. That was the only time I really felt like the deck was doing badly. Every other time I felt I was within grasp of every game, just because B-String is such an insane swing, right? You can just win any game when you hit B-Strings and just announce knockout with Buzzwell. So yeah, I think overall the deck choice was reasonable. The sort of approach to Worlds, I think, was correct. I think Buzzwell was a very good call for this tournament, even though we didn't see much Buzzwole in top 8. There was 1 Buzzrock and then 1 Zygarde Lycanroc in top 8 of Worlds. But I feel like for day 1, it was the correct call. I made the decision to not brick as much and not play Buzzrock, despite Lycanroc being an insanely high power level card. That's still up for debate whether or not that was correct, but I think my build up to Worlds was reasonable. I think testing my cargo was correct, and we saw Rob make it through day one and being 1 win away from top 32 as well. So looking forward to post-rotation. Buzz cargo with Oranguru looks to be a potential contender, and that's something good to take away. Outside of the tournament, I did then attend the Anaheim Open. I played the exact same 60 because I went out and partied on the town. Nashville was awesome, by the way. The city was way better than expectations. It's a real party town. And because there was concerts going on throughout the entire weekend, the place was absolutely packed with people. Went to some amazing rooftop bars, saw some great scenes, chilled with some really cool guys. I felt like this Worlds was the most we integrated with anyone. It's felt like in previous Worlds it's been like Team UK with then some smuttering of Europeans who we chilled with. This year it felt like I was, chilling with all the American guys, chilling with some South Americans, chilling with all the European crowd. And props to Robin, by the way, for winning. Really deserving World's champion, I think, for all the hard work he's done, not only this year, but over like a bunch of years. So that's really, really a worthy champion, I think, this year. So yeah, Worlds itself was amazing. And the Anaheim Open I did absolutely trash, by the way. I went 4-4, I think. I faced a lot of Buzz Garb Shrine decks, which was like the surprise deck at Worlds. And even though I saw it day one, didn't face it. And I know that some went very far day one. I know some people progressed with it. I was like, I don't want to change deck. I haven't tested enough with anything else, so I just rock this again. And it was just a bad call for the Anaheim Open. Everyone and their mum was bringing Buzz Garb Shrine, and I faced it twice. I also lost to a fellow UK guy, Scott, playing Stack Attacker, like sort of Turbo Metals kind of thing. That is also a Stonewall auto loss, as I figured out. So facing 3 matchups that were basically unwinnable, and then my other loss, I can't even remember what it was to. I think it may have been a Buzz Rock or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, just some really bad matchups for the deck. It didn't feel like the right call for the second day, as people figured out the Buzz Garb Shrine deck, which, is probably still quite good post-rotation, by the way. Even though it does lose strong energy, I think it's powerful. So, yeah, that's my take on Worlds. I think I'm fairly content, even though I didn't make day 2, with the calls that I did go for, and I feel like if I had a decent rub of the green, I could have gone further. Going into day 2 of the tournament, I don't think I would have made many changes. Potentially a second field blower was the thing that I was really reaching for, especially seeing the Rayquaza decks moving to Fury Belt in that second day. I think a second field blower would have been awesome, but having to trim something like a Cynthia would have been very awkward. Trimming one of the Super Rods would also be awkward, so I don't think there was a Stonewall cut from the list anywhere. So this one field blower was something I might have just had to put up with and be happy for. So yeah, that's going to be it, guys. We're going on to post-rotation very soon. I'm actually going to be looking at the top 8 lists for Worlds as well. So we'll go over all those decks, and then we'll move into the new meta very soon. So thanks for watching, guys. And thanks for all the support, both during the stream and throughout the year, really. Thank you so much for helping me out, being involved in the streams, commenting down below, all that good stuff. It really does mean a lot to me. And to everyone who made Nashville my favorite Worlds yet, thank you so much. So cheers, guys. See you soon.